The crystalline spires of Zephyria Prime glittered in the light of its twin suns, a testament to the advanced civilization that called this world home. For millennia, the Zephyrians had cultivated a society of peace, intellectual pursuit, and harmonious coexistence with nature. Their mastery of technology had allowed them to spread across their solar system, establishing outposts on moons and asteroids, but they had never encountered another sentient species. Until now. High Counselor Alara stood before the Great Assembly, her iridescent robes shimmering as she addressed the gathered representatives of Zephyria's global government. Her voice, usually calm and measured, carried an unmistakable note of excitement. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her large, almond-shaped eyes sweeping across the amphitheater, "I come before you with news that will forever change the course of our history. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected artificial signals originating from a neighboring star system. We are not alone in the universe." A collective gasp rippled through the assembly, followed by a flurry of whispers. Alara waited patiently for the commotion to subside before continuing. "We have decrypted some of the transmissions. They appear to be broadcasts from a planet called Earth, home to a species that calls themselves humans. Our preliminary analysis suggests they have achieved spaceflight and have begun to explore their own solar system." Counselor Zoran, a respected elder known for his cautious approach, rose to speak. "High Counselor, while this news is indeed momentous, we must proceed with utmost care. What do we know of these humans? Are they peaceful, like us, or do they pose a potential threat?" Alara nodded, acknowledging the validity of Zoran's concerns. "We have gleaned much from their transmissions, Counselor. The humans are a complex species, capable of great kindness and creativity, but also of conflict and destruction. They have a history marked by war, yet they have also made remarkable strides in science, art, and philosophy." She gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing images of Earth, sprawling cities, lush forests, and vast oceans. Their world is beautiful, diverse, and teeming with life, but it is also under strain from their industrial activities. In many ways, they remind me of our own ancestors before the Great Enlightenment. The assembly murmured, some with curiosity, others with apprehension. Counselor Lyra, a young and passionate advocate for scientific exploration, spoke up. "High Counselor, surely this is an opportunity we cannot ignore. Think of what we could learn from them, and what knowledge we could share." Alara smiled at Lyra's enthusiasm, but held up a hand to temper it. "Indeed, Counselor Lyra, the potential for mutual growth and understanding is immense. However, we must approach this situation with wisdom and caution. I propose we send a small delegation to establish first contact." The debate raged for hours, with arguments for and against contact put forth passionately. Some feared the humans might react with hostility or attempt to exploit Zephyrian technology. Others argued that the benefits of cultural exchange outweighed the risks. In the end, the decision was made. A mission would be launched to the edge of Earth's solar system, where they would broadcast a message of peace and invitation for dialogue. Months later, as the Zephyrian ship Starweaver entered the outskirts of the Sol system, tension aboard the vessel was palpable. Captain Thela, a veteran of deep space exploration, addressed her crew. "We stand at the threshold of a new era," she said, her voice steady despite her inner nervousness. "Remember your training, but also remember that we come in peace. Let us hope the humans receive us in the same spirit." The ship's sensors detected a flurry of activity as they approached Mars. It seemed their arrival had not gone unnoticed. Suddenly, a transmission crackled through their communications array. "Unknown vessel, this is the United Earth Space Command. Identify yourself and state your intentions." Captain Thela took a deep breath, then responded, "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Zephyrians, a peaceful civilization from a nearby star system. We come seeking friendship and the exchange of knowledge." There was a long pause, during which the crew of the Starweaver held their breath. Finally, the reply came. Zephyrian vessel, this is unprecedented. Please maintain your current position. We are dispatching a delegation to meet you. Welcome to the Sol system. As the human ships approached, the Zephyrians got their first close look at the species they had traveled so far to meet. The vessels were angular, utilitarian in design, a stark contrast to the organic, flowing lines of Zephyrian craft. And yet there was an undeniable ingenuity to their construction. The first face-to-face meeting took place aboard a neutral space station orbiting Mars. As the airlock cycled and the two groups came face-to-face, there was a moment of profound silence. The humans, with their varied skin tones and bilateral symmetry, stared in wonder at the tall, graceful forms of the Zephyrians, with their opalescent skin and large, expressive eyes. Dr. Samantha Chen, the lead human diplomat, stepped forward. "On behalf of humanity, I bid you welcome," she said, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "We have dreamed of this moment for centuries." Captain Thela inclined her head in a gesture of respect. "And we are honored to make this dream a reality. May this be the beginning of a long and fruitful friendship between our peoples." As the initial formalities were exchanged and the first tentative steps towards understanding were taken, neither species could have foreseen the profound changes this encounter would bring to both their civilizations. The Zephyrians, in their eagerness to share knowledge and culture, had yet to fully grasp the complexity and potential volatility of their new human friends. And humanity, for all its dreams of peaceful contact with alien life, was about to face a mirror that would reflect both its noblest aspirations and its deepest flaws. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as these two species, each with the power to elevate or destroy the other, took their first steps towards an intertwined destiny. The Alliance. 5 years had passed since the historic first contact between Zephyrians and humans. The initial excitement of cultural exchange had given way to a complex web of diplomatic relations, technological trades, and cautious cooperation. While many on both sides celebrated this new era of interstellar friendship, others harbored deep reservations. On Earth, the Global Council chamber buzzed with tension. Representatives from every nation had gathered to discuss a grave new threat that loomed on the horizon. Admiral Helena Vega, her face etched with concern, addressed the assembly. "Ladies and gentlemen, our long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching from the direction of the Orion Arm. Our Zephyrian allies have confirmed our worst fears. It's the Draconian Empire." A holographic display flickered to life, showing hundreds of menacing warships moving inexorably towards the Sol system. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. "The Draconians are a highly aggressive, expansionist species," Admiral Vega continued. "They've already conquered dozens of worlds. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, and their numbers are vast. We stand little chance against them alone." Chancellor Marcus Chen, a staunch advocate for human independence, rose to speak. "Are you suggesting we throw our lot in with the Zephyrians? They've been reluctant to share their most advanced technologies with us. How can we trust them in a military alliance?" Before Admiral Vega could respond, the chamber doors opened, and High Counselor Alaric glided in, accompanied by her human liaison, Dr. Samantha Chen. The room fell silent at the unexpected appearance of the Zephyrian leader. "Esteemed members of the Global Council," Alara began, her melodious voice carrying a note of urgency, "I come before you not as an outsider, but as a friend facing the same grave threat. The Draconian Empire represents a danger to both our civilizations. We must stand together, or we will surely fall separately." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "High Counselor Alara has come with a proposal. The Zephyrians are willing to enter into a full military alliance with Earth, sharing all their defensive technologies and strategic knowledge." The council erupted into a cacophony of voices. Some welcomed the offer enthusiastically, while others expressed skepticism and concern. Chancellor Chen's voice cut through the din. "And what do the Zephyrians ask in return for this generous offer?" he demanded, eyes narrowing suspiciously. Alara met his gaze steadily. "We ask for your courage, your ingenuity, and your strength. Our civilization has known peace for so long that we have forgotten the art of war. But you humans, you understand conflict in ways we cannot. We need your strategic minds and your indomitable spirit." A hush fell over the chamber as the implications of Elara's words sank in. The Zephyrians, for all their advanced technology, were asking humans to be their warriors. Admiral Vega seized the moment. "Council members, we don't have the luxury of time for extended debate. The Draconian fleet will reach our outer colonies within months. This alliance may be our only hope for survival." After hours of intense discussion and negotiation, the Global Council voted. The Earth-Zephyria Alliance was born. The next few months saw a flurry of activity across both solar systems. Zephyrian engineers worked alongside human scientists to upgrade Earth's defenses. Massive shield generators were constructed around key planets and colonies. Human military strategists pored over Zephyrian star charts, devising battle plans and defensive formations. On the Zephyrian homeworld, the changes were even more profound. For the first time in millennia, weapons of war were being forged in the crystalline cities. Human combat instructors trained Zephyrian volunteers in the art of warfare, their peaceful nature warring with the necessity of survival. Captain Aria Solari, one of Earth's most decorated naval officers, found herself appointed as the commander of a joint Earth-Zephyria battle group. Her flagship, the Easius Harmony, was a hybrid of human and Zephyrian technology. Sleek Zephyrian design merged with robust human engineering. As she stood on the bridge, overseeing final preparations for their first engagement with Draconian scout ships, Aria couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and unease. The crew around her was a blend of humans and Zephyrians, working together with growing efficiency, but the cultural differences were still apparent. Her Zephyrian first officer, Zenith, approached with a report. "Captain, all systems are ready. The fleet is awaiting your command." Aria nodded, studying the tactical display. "Thank you, Zenith. How are our Zephyrian crew members holding up? This will be their first taste of actual combat." Zenith's large eyes reflected a complex mix of emotions. "They are apprehensive, Captain, but also determined. Your training has prepared them well, but facing the reality of taking lives, it goes against everything our culture has taught us." Aria placed a comforting hand on Zenith's shoulder, marveling at how such a gesture had become natural between their species. "I understand. War is never easy, Zenith. But remember, we fight not for conquest or glory, but for the survival of both our peoples." Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. "Captain," the sensor officer called out, "multiple Draconian vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're advancing on the colony on Europa." Aria's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Battle stations, all ships, form up on the Harmony. We will not let them take one step further into our system." As the fleet moved into position, Aria couldn't help but reflect on the irony of their situation. The peaceful Zephyrians had sought out humanity hoping to find kindred spirits among the stars. Instead, they had found reluctant warriors and accidental protectors. The first shots were fired, streaks of energy crisscrossing the void of space. Human tactical brilliance combined with Zephyrian technology proved to be a formidable combination. The Draconian scouts, caught off guard by the unexpected resistance, were forced into retreat. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Aria watched her mixed crew celebrate their victory. Humans and Zephyrians embraced, their joy transcending the vast differences between them. In that moment, she saw the potential of their alliance, not just as a means of survival, but as a force that could reshape the galaxy. But as reports of the skirmish were transmitted back to Earth and Zephyria Prime, the true implications of the alliance began to sink in. The Zephyrians, witnessing the efficiency with which humans waged war, felt a mixture of gratitude and deep unease. And humanity, now with access to technologies beyond their wildest dreams, grappled with the immense responsibility that came with such power. The battle against the Draconians had only just begun, and already it was changing both civilizations in ways no one could have predicted. As the Earth-Zephyria fleet regrouped, preparing for the next engagement, the question hung silently in the starlit void. In defending themselves against the draconian threat, would they lose the very essence of what they were fighting to protect? The human factor. The war against the Draconian Empire had raged for 2 years, transforming both human and Zephyrian societies. What had begun as a desperate alliance had evolved into a complex integration of 2 vastly different cultures, with consequences that neither side had fully anticipated. On the front lines, the hybrid Earth-Zephyria fleets had proven remarkably effective. Human tactical ingenuity, combined with Zephyrian technology, had managed to halt the Draconian advance and even push them back in several sectors. But it was on the ground where the true impact of human involvement became most apparent. Colonel Sarah Martinez crouched behind a fallen crystal spire on the contested world of Lyria, a former Zephyrian colony. Her armor, a sleek combination of Zephyrian energy-dispersing materials and human practical design, was scuffed and scored from weeks of intense fighting. Beside her, a squad of human and Zephyrian soldiers awaited her orders. "Zeta Team, status report," Sarah whispered into her comm. "In position, Colonel," came the reply from Sergeant Talon, a young Zephyrian who had taken to human military doctrine with surprising aptitude. "Draconian forces are concentrated around the central nexus. They're using some kind of energy shield we haven't seen before." Sarah nodded, though Talon couldn't see it. "Understood. Initiate Operation Trojan Horse." With practiced precision, the human members of the squad began assembling what looked like scrap metal and discarded tech. Within minutes, they had cobbled together a crude but functional EMP device, a human specialty that had repeatedly caught the Draconians off guard. As the human soldiers worked, Sarah noticed the mix of awe and unease on the faces of their Zephyrian counterparts. The ability of humans to improvise, to create weapons from seemingly anything, both impressed and disturbed their allies. "Nexus, this is Groundbreaker," Sarah called in to the orbiting command ship, requesting precision orbital strike on these coordinates, timed with our EMP detonation. "Confirmed. Groundbreaker," came the reply. "Strike package inbound. May the stars guide your path." Sarah smiled grimly at the traditional Zephyrian blessing. Even in the heat of battle, their allies tried to maintain a semblance of their peaceful culture. "All units prepare to advance on my mark," Sarah ordered. She took a deep breath, centering herself. 3, 2, 1, mark. The EMP device activated with a low hum, followed immediately by a brilliant flash in the sky as the orbital strike hit its target. The Draconian energy shield flickered and died, leaving their position exposed. "Charge!" Sarah yelled, leading her troops forward. The humans moved with practiced efficiency, their weapons, a mix of traditional firearms and Zephyrian energy weapons, blazing. The Zephyrian soldiers followed, their movements more hesitant but growing in confidence with each engagement. As they fought their way through the Draconian defenses, Sarah couldn't help but notice the stark contrast in fighting styles. The humans were aggressive, adaptable, always looking for any advantage. The Zephyrians, while brave, seemed to struggle with the brutal reality of close combat. Hours later, as the last Draconian ship fled the system, Sarah stood amidst the ruins of what had once been a beautiful Zephyrian city. The cost of victory was etched in the destruction around them, and the haunted looks in the eyes of the Zephyrian soldiers. Back on the Nexus, the post-battle debriefing was tense. Admiral Vega stood at the head of the conference table, her hologram flickering slightly. Beside her, High Counselor Elara's usually serene features were marred by concern. "The operation was a success," Admiral Vega began. "Thanks to Colonel Martinez's unorthodox tactics, we've reclaimed Lyria with minimal casualties on our side." Elara nodded, but her voice was heavy. "Yes, and we are grateful. But the reports I'm receiving, the level of destruction, the methods employed, this is not the way of Zephyria." Sarah, still dusty from battle, spoke up. "With all due respect, High Counselor, this is war. We're fighting for survival against an enemy that shows no mercy. We can't afford to pull our punches." A Zephyrian general, Lysander, his iridescent uniform a stark contrast to the utilitarian human military dress, interjected. "Colonel, we understand the necessity of fighting, but your methods, creating weapons from debris, using our sacred sites as battlegrounds, it feels like a desecration of everything we hold dear." The room fell silent, the divide between human and Zephyrian philosophies hanging palpably in the air. It was Dr. Samantha Chen, the human liaison, who finally broke the tension. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "we need to find a balance. The human approach has been effective, but we must be mindful of Zephyrian values. Maybe there's a way to incorporate both." Admiral Vega nodded thoughtfully. "Dr. Chen is right. This alliance is about more than just military victory. We need to preserve what we're fighting for." As the meeting continued, strategies were discussed not just for winning battles, but for winning them in a way that both humans and Zephyrians could accept. It was a delicate balance, and one that would be continually tested in the crucible of war. Meanwhile, on Earth and Zephyria Prime, the impact of the alliance was reshaping both societies. Human cities now sported Zephyrian-inspired architecture, sleek and organic designs blending with traditional human structures. Zephyrian youth, inspired by human adaptability, were pushing the boundaries of their traditionally conservative society. In a lab on Zephyria Prime, Dr. Ilara, a brilliant Zephyrian scientist, worked alongside her human colleague, Dr. James Wong. They were attempting to merge Zephyrian biotechnology with human cybernetics, a project that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. "If we can get this right," James said excitedly, "we could revolutionize both medicine and warfare. Imagine soldiers with enhanced healing capabilities, or civilians able to regrow lost limbs." Ilara nodded, but her expression was troubled. "Yes, the potential is extraordinary. But James, doesn't it concern you? We're changing the very nature of our bodies, of life itself." James paused, considering her words. "Change isn't always bad, Ilara. Look at what our peoples have accomplished together already. Yes, it's scary, but it's also exciting. We're pushing the boundaries of what's possible." As they continued their work, neither fully aware of the profound implications their research would have, similar scenes were playing out across both civilizations. Humans and Zephyrians were learning from each other, changing each other, in ways both subtle and profound. On a Zephyrian colony world, human agricultural techniques were increasing crop yields exponentially, alleviating food shortages caused by the war. In return, Zephyrian environmental technology was being implemented on Earth, beginning to reverse centuries of ecological damage. Yet for all the positive developments, there was an undercurrent of unease. Many Zephyrians worried about the influence of human culture, more individualistic, more prone to conflict, on their harmonious society. Humans, in turn, feared losing their drive and competitive edge to Zephyrian pacifism. As the war against the Draconians entered its third year, both humanity and the Zephyrians found themselves at a crossroads. Their alliance had made them stronger, had given them a fighting chance against a superior foe. But as the lines between their cultures blurred, a question loomed large. In coming together to face this threat, would they emerge as something greater than the sum of their parts? Or would they lose the very essence of what made them unique? The answer, as yet unknown, would shape the future not just of their two species, but of the entire galaxy. Unintended consequences. 5 years into the war against the Draconian Empire, the alliance between humans and Zephyrians had achieved what many had thought impossible. They were winning. The Draconians, for all their technological superiority, found themselves consistently outmaneuvered by the combined ingenuity of human tactics and Zephyrian technology. But as the immediate threat of annihilation receded, new challenges emerged from within the alliance itself. On Zephyria Prime, The crystal spires that had stood for millennia now cast their shadows over a changed landscape. Military installations dotted the once pristine wilderness, and the soft hum of peaceful contemplation had given way to the bustle of a society mobilized for war. High Counselor Alara stood at the window of her office, her normally serene features marred by worry lines that hadn't existed a few years ago. She turned as Dr. Samantha Chen entered the room, noting the human woman's confident stride, a stark contrast to the deferential manners Zephyrians typically adopted in the presence of the High Counselor. "Dr. Chen," Alara greeted her, "I trust you've seen the latest reports." Samantha nodded grimly. "I have. The protests on New Harmony Colony are intensifying, and there are similar rumblings on at least 3 other Zephyrian worlds." Alara sighed, a sound filled with weariness. "When we formed this alliance, we knew there would be changes, but this is beyond anything we anticipated." The reports painted a troubling picture. On New Harmony, a group calling themselves the Nova Front had staged increasingly violent demonstrations, demanding an end to the stifling conformity of traditional Zephyrian governance. They called for democratic elections, for individual rights that went far beyond anything Zephyrian society had ever embraced. "It's not just political unrest," Samantha added. "The integration of human and Zephyrian technologies is having unexpected effects." She activated a holographic display, showing images that made Alara's eyes widen in shock. Zephyrians with cybernetic enhancements, their once pristine forms now melded with machinery. Others bore genetic modifications, their skin shimmering with unnatural hues, their physical capabilities enhanced far beyond the norm. "This goes against everything we believe in," Alara whispered. "The sanctity of the natural form, the balance of the collective over the individual." Samantha's voice was gentle but firm. "With respect, High Counselor, many of your people, especially the younger generation, no longer see it that way. They've embraced human ideas about self-improvement, about pushing boundaries." Before Alara could respond, an alert chimed. A holographic image of Admiral Vega appeared, her expression grim. "High Counselor, Dr. Chen," she greeted them. "We have a situation on Lyria. The human garrison there has, well, there's no easy way to say this. They've refused orders to withdraw now that the draconian threat has been neutralized." Alara felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean, refused orders?" Admiral Vega's hologram flickered slightly. "They're claiming that they've gone native, to use a human phrase. They've integrated with the local Zephyrian population and are demanding the right to establish an independent colony." The implications were staggering. A human military force, armed with advanced Zephyrian technology, was essentially staging a coup on a Zephyrian world. As Alara and Samantha grappled with this news, similar scenes were unfolding across human space. On Earth, the Global Council was in an uproar over reports of Zephyrian cults spreading across the planet. These groups advocated for a complete restructuring of human society along Zephyrian lines, calling for an end to national governments in favor of a singular, harmonious global order. In orbit around Mars, Dr. James Wong put the finishing touches on humanity's first faster-than-light ship, built using principles derived from Zephyrian technology. As he stepped back to admire the sleek vessel, a cold realization settled in his stomach. With this ship, humanity would no longer be bound to their solar system. The galaxy was opening up before them, full of possibilities and potential conquests. Back on Zephyria Prime, the unrest that had been simmering beneath the surface finally boiled over. The Nova Front, emboldened by the news from Lyria, launched a coordinated series of attacks on government buildings across the planet. Their weapons, a terrifying hybrid of human and Zephyrian technology, overwhelmed the peaceful world's defenses. In the chaos, a young Zephyrian named Zura found herself caught between the old world and the new. Raised on stories of her people's peaceful ways, she had nonetheless been drawn to the human ideal of individual achievement. Now, as she watched her city burn, she felt torn between her heritage and the seductive promise of change. Zara made her way through the streets, using the enhanced strength granted by her newly acquired cybernetic limbs. She had gotten the enhancements to better serve in the war effort, but now they seemed like a symbol of everything that was tearing her world apart. As she rounded a corner, she came face to face with a group of Nova Front rebels. Their leader, a Zephyrian, whose skin rippled with chameleon-like camouflage technology, grinned at her. "Sister," he called out, "will you join us in ushering in a new era for our people?" Zara hesitated, the weight of the choice before her suddenly overwhelming. It was a microcosm of the decision facing all Zephyrians: embrace the change brought by human influence or cling to their ancient ways. Meanwhile, in the Draconian Empire, news of the growing chaos in the Earth-Zephyria alliance was received with grim satisfaction. Emperor Vex, his scaled features set in a calculating smile, addressed his war council. "It seems our enemies are destroying themselves from within," he hissed. "Perhaps it's time we exploit these unintended consequences." As the Draconian fleet began to mobilize, neither the humans nor the Zephyrians realized that their greatest challenge was yet to come. The very success of their alliance, the deep integration of their cultures and technologies, had created vulnerabilities that their enemy was all too eager to exploit. On Earth, in the halls of the Global Council, Chancellor Marcus Chen paced restlessly. The reports from Zephyria Prime and the outer colonies were troubling, to say the least. The alliance that had saved them from the Draconian threat now seemed to be unraveling at an alarming rate. "We need to act," he muttered to his advisors. "If the Zephyrian government falls, if their worlds descend into chaos, we'll lose everything we fought for." One of his advisors, a young woman who had spent the last few years working closely with Zephyrian diplomats, spoke up hesitantly. "Sir, perhaps this is an opportunity. If the old Zephyrian order can't maintain control, maybe it's time for a more direct human involvement in their affairs." Chancellor Chen stopped pacing, his eyes narrowing as he considered the implications of her words. It was a dangerous idea, one that went against the spirit of their alliance. And yet, faced with the prospect of losing their most valuable ally, it was tempting. Very tempting indeed. As both civilizations grappled with the unforeseen consequences of their union, the fabric of the alliance began to fray. The peace and harmony that the Zephyrians had cultivated for millennia clashed violently with humanity's drive for progress and individual expression. The humans, in turn, found their societies in upheaval as Zephyrian philosophy challenged long-held beliefs about governance and personal identity. In the vast expanse of space, aboard the Earth-Zephyria Alliance's flagship, Captain Aria Solari received reports from across both civilizations with growing alarm. The crew around her, once a model of interspecies cooperation, now eyed each other with suspicion and unease. As she stared out at the stars, Aria couldn't help but wonder. In their quest to save their civilizations from an external threat, had they inadvertently sown the seeds of their own destruction? The answer to that question would determine not just the fate of humans and Zephyrians, but the future of the entire galaxy. And time, it seemed, was rapidly running out. A new balance. The Draconian fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their warships casting long shadows across the void. Emperor Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, his reptilian features set in a triumphant snarl. Before him, the holographic displays showed a chaotic scene. Earth and Zephyrian ships exchanged fire, colonies were in open revolt, and the once mighty alliance seemed to be tearing itself apart. "The time has come," Vex hissed to his commanders. "While they fight amongst themselves, we will crush them once and for all." But as the Draconian fleet began its advance, something unexpected happened. Proximity alarms blared across both human and Zephyrian vessels. In that moment of shared danger, a familiar voice crackled across all communication channels. "This is Captain Aria Solari of the Earth-Zephyria Alliance. All ships, cease fire immediately. We have incoming Draconian forces. I repeat, cease fire, and prepare for enemy engagement. For a heartbeat, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, as one, the warring factions turned to face the common threat. On Earth, Chancellor Marcus Chen received the emergency transmission with a mix of dread and grim determination. He turned to his advisors, his decision made. Send word to all our forces. Full cooperation with the Zephyrians. Whatever our differences, they can wait. Survival comes first. Simultaneously on Zephyria Prime, High Counselor Alara addressed her people, her voice carrying across the planet, and to all Zephyrian colonies. Children of Zephyria, hear me. We stand at the precipice of annihilation, not just from the draconian threat, but from our own fears and doubts. Yet in our darkest hour, we must remember the strength we found in unity. Today, we fight not just for our survival, but for the very idea that different cultures can coexist and thrive together. As the draconian fleet engaged, they found themselves facing not a fractured and demoralized enemy, but a reinvigorated alliance. Human tactical brilliance once again melded with Zephyrian technology, but this time with a new element: the innovations born from their cultural exchange. Zephyrian ships, once purely defensive, now sported weapon systems that seamlessly integrated their energy manipulation technology with human offensive strategies. Human vessels, bolstered by Zephyrian biotechnology, displayed unprecedented maneuverability and resilience. On the front lines, Colonel Sarah Martinez found herself fighting alongside Zara, the young Zephyrian cyborg. Together, they led a mixed squad of humans and Zephyrians in a daring boarding action against a draconian dreadnought. Sarah's tactical acumen, combined with Zora's enhanced abilities and deep understanding of Zephyrian tech, made them an unstoppable force. As they fought their way to the ship's bridge, Sarah noticed something had changed in her Zephyrian comrades. Gone was the hesitation she had seen in earlier battles. Now they moved with purpose, their actions reflecting a harmony between their peaceful nature and the necessity of war. Back on Earth, Dr. James Wong worked feverishly alongside his Zephyrian colleagues. The faster-than-light drive he had developed was being repurposed, not for exploration or conquest, but as a weapon against the draconian fleet. By creating localized ruptures in spacetime, they could disrupt the enemy's formations and create openings for their forces. As the battle raged across the solar system, Emperor Vex watched with increasing desperation as his carefully laid plans crumbled. The humans and Zephyrians were not fighting as two allied species, but as a single unified force that was greater than the sum of its parts. In a last desperate gambit, Vex ordered his flagship to make a run for Earth, hoping to hold the human homeworld hostage. But as his ship approached, it was met by an unprecedented sight: a massive energy barrier encasing the entire planet, a perfect fusion of Zephyrian defensive technology and human power generation. Realizing the battle was lost, Vex attempted to retreat, only to find his ship ensnared by a tractor beam from Captain Aria Solari's flagship. As Vex was brought aboard in chains, Aria couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. In the aftermath of the battle, as the adrenaline of victory faded, the leaders of Earth and Zephyria faced their greatest challenge yet, forging a lasting peace not just with their defeated enemy, but among their own people. In the halls of the Global Council on Earth, now expanded to include representatives from Zephyria and its colonies, Chancellor Marcus Chen addressed the assembled delegates. "We stand at a crossroads," he began, his voice solemn. "The war is over, but our greatest work is just beginning. We must find a way to preserve the best of both our cultures while allowing for the natural evolution that comes from exchange and growth." High Counselor Alara, standing beside him, continued the thought. "For millennia, my people sought harmony through isolation and rigid adherence to tradition. We now understand that true harmony comes not from the absence of difference, but from the respectful integration of diverse ideas and ways of life." Over the following months, a new galactic society began to take shape. The forced conformity of traditional Zephyrian governance, gave way to a more flexible system that valued individual expression while maintaining a commitment to the greater good. Human societies, in turn, began to adopt Zephyrian principles of environmental stewardship and long-term planning. The Nova Front, once a revolutionary movement, transformed into a political party advocating for progressive reforms. Zara, the young Zephyrian cyborg who had fought alongside Colonel Martinez, became one of its leading voices, working to bridge the gap between tradition and innovation. On Earth, Zephyrian Harmony Centers opened in major cities, offering humans a taste of Zephyrian meditation techniques and communal living. Simultaneously, Zephyrian youth flocked to human-style universities, eager to explore new ways of thinking and creating. The integration of human and Zephyrian technology led to unprecedented advancements. Cybernetic enhancements, once a source of controversy, were refined to work in harmony with natural biology, improving quality of life without sacrificing spiritual well-being. Space exploration boomed as faster-than-light travel opened up the galaxy, with mixed human-Zephyrian crews leading the charge. Even the defeated Draconians found a place in this new order. Under the guidance of human and Zephyrian reformers, their society began a slow but steady transformation from one based on conquest to one that valued cooperation and cultural exchange. 5 years after the final battle, Captain Aria Solari stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat orbiting the neutral space between Earth and Zephyria Prime. Below her, delegates from dozens of species, including reformed Draconians, were gathering for the first galactic concordance. As she watched ships of all shapes and sizes approach the station, Aria reflected on the tumultuous journey that had brought them to this point. The challenges had been immense, the sacrifices heartbreaking, but the result was something truly remarkable. A galactic society that celebrated diversity while fostering unity. Dr. Samantha Chen joined her at the window, a warm smile on her face. "Quite a view, isn't it? Did you ever imagine we'd end up here when we made first contact all those years ago?" Aria chuckled, shaking her head. "Never in my wildest dreams. We set out to save our civilizations from the Draconians, but we ended up reinventing them entirely. And yet," Samantha mused, "both humans and Zephyrians remain true to their core selves. We've changed, certainly, but we haven't lost what makes us unique." As they stood there, watching the birth of a new era, both women understood that this was not an end, but a beginning. The journey ahead would have its own challenges, its own conflicts to resolve. But they faced the future with hope, secure in the knowledge that together they could overcome anything the universe might throw at them. In the vastness of space, countless stars twinkled, each one a potential home for new civilizations waiting to join the grand tapestry they were weaving. The galaxy was entering a new age, one of exploration, cooperation, and endless possibility. And at the heart of it all was the unlikely alliance between humanity and the Zephyrians, two species who had reached for the stars and found not just each other, but a better version of themselves.